Time to do my predictions for the upcoming card. Rampage versus Rashad, UFC 114. Pretty good card, although, I don't know. Outside the Rampage Rashad fight, guess there's not a lot of huge ramifications. But, here we go. Starting with spike cards. We have spike fights. We have Efren Escudero, Dan Lozon. Gotta go with Efren in this fight, probably by UD. Lozon can take a beating, so I don't think he finishes him. But both the Lozons generally have a problem if they fight a guy who can put them on their back consistently, and Efren can do that. And Efren's pretty good about staying out of subs, even though Evan Dunham did get him, so there is that chance. But, Lozon, very young fighter, a lot of potential, but probably going to get dropped from the UFC after this, because this will be 3 straight UFC losses. Although one doesn't overly count because it was some time ago. But I think Efren comes in. I think he'll be able to take down Dan. I think he'll be able to strike with him if he needs to. I think he'll be able to control him on the ground and just kind of grind out a decision. Sort of like the Philip Nover fight. Next up, DHK versus Amir Sadala. A lot of people kind of writing DHK off this, it seems. But, despite the fact that I do believe Amir can work the outside game, he has the better striking, I think. He has pretty good ground game off of his back, particularly. But his wrestling is a bit deficient, and DHK is a very good judoka. He's got good hands in his own right, and he has a good ground game. So we're 2 well-rounded guys, with one has a considerable advantage in one aspect of the game. I got to go with him. I think that's DHK. Being able to take down Amir, probably with a decision. I could see a finish by strikes, particularly, but I don't foresee that. I think Amir just won't have an answer for the superior judo of DHK. And Stun Gun should remain undefeated. John Hathaway, Diego Sanchez. Gotta go Diego. Diego is the better wrestler, I feel. The better overall striker, even though John Hathaway, I think, has the better boxing. I believe he's also the better grappler. I believe he also has the advantage in cardio. He's a very tough guy, so it's not like he's not prone to the flash KO that maybe would be a danger here. I think he's going to be able to take down Hathaway. I think he's going to be able to ground him. I think he's going to be able to ground and pound him in the end. Possibly a submission, but I'm going to go with a second or third round stoppage. Probably on the ground, a TKO or a submission. I don't really foresee him wanting to stand with Hathaway, because Hathaway does have some pretty good boxing. Diego does sometimes stand with people who have good boxing, though, so we'll see. But, yeah. Should be a triumphant return to 170 for Diego. A rebound from the ass-kicking he took from BJ Penn. Look for him to get back into the mix at 170, but, he's not going to win the title there, I'm going to put it that way, because I don't foresee him having anything to do with the likes of Koscheck and Fitch and GSP. Probably not even Alves. Next up, Jason Brills versus Nogueira. Not as one-sided as some people think. I think this does get out of the first round, but I think it does end in the second round. I'm going to go with a submission for Nogueira. I think Brills might be able to control where this fight goes, because I do believe he does have the better wrestling. I think Nogueira would be somewhat hard-pressed to take him down. That being said, there's danger on the ground, because Nogueira is an amazing, amazing ground fighter. We know what he does. He taps people from his back a lot. He's got that ability. Vladimir Matyushenko did, way back in his career, manage to take him down and basically do what Brills might try to do, but I don't think it works. I don't think it works at this point in his career. Brills, his stand-up is not great. It's been improving, which has been a good surprise. But the 3-1 record in the UFC, his biggest fight was Elliot Marshall, and he lost it. His biggest win is Eric Schaefer. I don't think he really has anything to do with Nogueira over the long stretch. I got to go the second round tap out. Nogueira gets him eventually. Nogueira's just got that. His wrestling may be somewhat deficient, but he's got a great game off his back. He's a great boxer by MMA standards. And that makes him just dangerous fighter. I look forward to possibly seeing a rematch between Limnog and Shogun in the future for the UFC's 205 title. Todd Duffy, Mike Russo. possibly the worst odds on the card. Mike Russo is a huge underdog, and I don't really understand it. I think people are buying a little bit into the Duffy hype of the record-setting knockout. What does that really prove about him? I mean, no offense, but the record really still should be Dwayne Ludwig's over Jonathan Goulet. And what does that mean about Ludwig? I mean, I think that's Ludwig's only win in the UFC. I could be mistaken, but I believe that is his only win. That being said, Duffy he has a lot of potential. He has some well-rounded skills. He has pretty good stand-up. I'd say that is his strength and his power. That being said, Russo's never been knocked out. He's fought some decent power hitters. Roman Zantsov, Sergei Haratonov, to name the most notable, I suppose. And, it's not even that they didn't knock him out. They didn't really even come close. He's a very good wrestler. On paper, he's a better wrestler than Duffy. And I kind of got to go with Russo by either a decision or a sub. He's got some reasonably good ground game. If Duffy can stuff the takedown, it is going to be probably either a long and painful night for Russo or a short and sleepy one. But that being said, I just do not get Russo being the biggest underdog on the card. I think that should go to Jason Brills personally. It's just with all the lopsided fights here, this fight is competitive, and I think people just are really, really underselling Russo on this one. So here's hoping Mike Russo does it, because I really don't like it when people buy into UFC hype when it's not fully warranted. Michael Bisping, Dan Miller, gone back and forth on this fight a lot. On one hand, you have Miller, who probably has a slightly better ground game, has probably the better wrestling game. Bisping, though, he kind of just finds ways to win. He's a really, really game opponent. You look at the guys who have beat him, it's basically Vanderlei Silva, Dan Henderson, Rashad Evans, and Matt Hamill, even though that's officially a Bisping win. He was in trouble against Dennis Kang. His chin is starting to become somewhat questionable. His stand-up is not as good as a lot of people think it is. That being said, I just kind of think he's going to win this fight. And I really can't explain why I think it, because on paper, Dan Miller has a very, very good shot at winning this fight. You look at him, if he can take him down, he can possibly control him. Issue is, every time Dan Miller's come against, particularly top competition, not that these guys compare to Bisping, but, Demian Maia, Chael Sonnen, they beat him. His biggest win is Jake Rashad, who seems to have somewhat of a weak submission defense. So, I don't know. It's a tough call. Gonna go with Bisping. The unanimous decision, even though I really can't stand Bisping, but it is what it is. Rampage Jackson, Rashad Evans. Very, very interesting fight. Two guys who are very similar. They're both very much counter-striking boxers with a wrestling background, with a great deal of athleticism behind them. That being said, they've been trash-talking each other a lot. I kind of think that might be the detriment to one of them, because trash talk, there's the pressure to back it up, and sometimes it gets to a fighter. On paper, I'd have to go with Rampage. I think he has the better technical boxing. I think he has the better string of knockouts. Rashad Chin is a little bit in question. I mean, he's only been knocked out once, but he's only fought two guys that I would say are particularly power punchers, that being Lyoto, who knocked him out, and Thiago Silva, who stunned him with, a baby hook. So it has to be said that there are some doubts about Rashad's chin. There's not really the doubts about Rampage's chin, despite the fact that he's actually been, finished with strikes more often. They've been far apart. They've been usually the result of a cumulative damage. He stood there with some actually very powerful punchers. Ricardo Arona, even though Arona is not a good striker, but he's got power in his hands. So he didn't get knocked out there. He's fought Chuck Liddell twice, didn't get knocked out there. Rashad did knock out Chuck, but it a Chuck that was kind of past his prime, and I think was really unprepared for the counter-striking game plan for Rashad Evans. Problem is, Rampage can sometimes get emotional, get blinded, not do what is smart. That might come into play. That being said, I'm still going to pick Rampage via a second or third round TKO stoppage. Rashad might look good up until that point because he has the speed advantage on the feet. He has a technical wrestling advantage, but we saw how hard it was for him to take down Thiago Silva and a while back Tito Ortiz, despite having the wrestling advantage there as well. And Rampage, I think, is probably harder to take down than either of those guys. Probably. So I got to go with Rampage. But if he throws Judgment to the wind, Rashad will probably get him, and that'll be all. Underbar, we got the picks for the undercard. That is all.